Hello everyone, Tina here. I hope your day's going wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me. Well, today I get to share with you, well, it's the first Thursday of the month, and that is when the Hero Arts and Joann.com card making kit comes out. It's called the Make Yourself at Home card making kit, and it's exclusive to Joann.com. And today we're going to create 3 projects with it. I'm going to go over what's included in the kit, and then we are going to jump in and get started. We're going to take a look at the cardstock to start off with. We get 6 pieces of colored cardstock and then 2 pieces of watercolor cardstock. These are all 8.5 by 5.5 inch sheets. The orange here, you get 2 of them, is papaya. And you get 2 of the beautiful teal colored. This is paradise. You get 2 of the yellow. This is sorbet yellow, and then of course your 2 sheets of watercolor cardstock. Now these are the watercolor cardstock is included because we get 3 of the Hero Arts reactive inks. Reactive inks are great for stamping, but they're also great for watercoloring. Okay, we'll start off with Pool Party. It's a beautiful teal, and it coordinates with the paradise beautifully. You have Creamsicle. It's a nice bright orange, and of course it coordinates with your papaya beautifully. And then papaya cardstock. And then last but not least, you have Lemon Drop. Lemon Drop's a beautiful yellow, nice summery yellow. And the colors coordinate perfect with your cardstock. So those are your inks. Now, of course, these, again, are reactive, so you could use your water brush to watercolor with them. Okay, now we're going to take a look at our stamp set. This month, you get the stamp set and the coordinating frame cuts. It's a 4x6 stamp set, and this is called See You Soon. Beautiful shells in here. I think this is going to be fabulous to create with, and then you get the coordinating dies to cut out each of your images. Sentiments in here are fun. It's your day to, it's your day, let's celebrate. Nice little punny sentiment. You have see you soon. You have we shall get together soon. That's so cute. And then I miss you. So that's our stamp set. And then you get a background stamp. This is the fishing net bold print cling background stamp. So it stamps beautifully, and I think it goes perfect with the seashells. So you get that included in the Hero Arts Joann.com Make Yourself at Home kit. You also get some embossing powder. This is fabulous embossing powder. It's called sand, but you see the 2 tones in here. When you melt, they melt together, and it looks really shiny, just like beach sand, which is pretty cool. So I'm glad they've included a jar of that. And then you also get some enamel dots. And then this is the color of aquas. It's called aquas. And there are different sizes of those teal colored enamel dots. So that's everything in the Make Yourself at Home kit. We're going to put everything aside and jump in, and let's make some cards. We're going to start by doing our stamping first. I want to do some watercoloring. So for me, I like to emboss. And since we have the beautiful sand embossing powder, I thought we would stamp all of our images, emboss them, and then color them in all at once. So I'm going to take our panels. These are watercolor cardstock sheets. They're both sides are textured. So having a stamp positioner is really going to help out when you stamp your images. Now I'm going to start by taking 1 piece of cardstock, and we are going to stamp some seashells that are oh so pretty. Okay, I have all of the images, but this one here, and then also the sand dollar. I have something else planned for those. So let's pick these up with our Misty. I'm going to treat my paper with my anti-static powder, and then we're going to do a little heat embossing using our Hero Arts embossing and watermark ink. And I think that's going to work out great. Now I'm going to take some scratch cardstock. I'm going to take some scratch paper here. I'm going to use my sand embossing powder and go over all of my images. I love the natural tone of this, and it's great not just for making a sandy background, but for embossing your images too. Look how pretty that is. I'm going to go ahead and set this aside, and we're going to create one more panel. Now after I have both panels with my sand embossing powder, I'm going to use my heat gun and we're going to melt the embossing powder, but we're going to keep our stamping positioner out because we're going to stamp the background too. Now that my seashells are heat set and melted, and that is such a pretty embossing powder, we're going to set these aside and do a little bit more embossing using the same sand embossing powder. I have the fishing net background stamp here, and for this we're not using watercolor cardstock, we're going to use regular cardstock. So I have an A2 size panel, it's a card front panel, and I put adhesive on this side. I'm going to position it where I want it, and I think I want it in this top corner. And then what I like to do is bring back the back side of my Misty, tack it down. This way I know exactly where my panel is going to be on here. Next, I'm going to treat my paper with my anti-static powder, and then I'm going to go over my net with my watermark and embossing ink. And we'll press down real good. I'll probably do this twice just so I get a good impression. So let's do this once more. And then I'll take this panel and we're going to go over this panel with our sand. When you tap off, you don't want to tap off too much, because you have those big chunks of brown, and those really add a nice detail to your background. You can see the chunks here. You want to leave those in there. Okay, my background panel is good to go. I'm going to set this aside, and while we have our fishing net background still here, we're going to take a piece of our Paradise cardstock. I'm going to add adhesive behind it, and I'm going to place this where I want it to go, and we're going to do a tone on tone with our watermark ink. So I'll just pick this up, and we're going to go over this, creating a tone on tone look with our watermark ink. And then we have that lovely print in the background. I'm going to do the same thing, but this time we're going to use our papaya cardstock. I'll just trim one panel in half, and then we will add this and repeat the process. Okay, so we have our background panels good to go. We'll set these aside, and then we're going to do a little bit of watercoloring. So I'm going to use my Hero Arts water flow brush and an acrylic block. And then I'm going to take each one of my, let's zoom in a little bit here. I'm going to take each one of my reactive inks, and I'm going to add some ink to my acrylic block. And this way we can pick up the ink from our acrylic block and do some watercoloring. With reactive inks, the less water you use, the more concentrated the color, and then the more water you use, the less concentrated. It'll be a lot lighter. So I'm going to start with a light coat. Now our watercoloring is all done. So it's easy cleanup. We just wipe off our acrylic block. I'm going to take the coordinating frame cuts and I'll just separate these, and then we're going to die cut out all of our seashells here. Okay, I went ahead and die cut out all of my seashells. I did stamp and emboss a few more of the starfish. I think those were, I love the tan color of them. And I kind of separated them into piles. We're going to use these for one card and then these for another. But for our first card, we are going to do a little bit more stamping. So I'm going to set these two piles aside. And then we are going to take the sand dollar that's in the stamp set. And we're going to use our inks. So we'll grab those. And I'm going to use the paper that I had actually used for our embossing, and we're going to stamp a full background with our reactive inks using just the sand dollar. So let's go ahead and fill in our background. Just kind of random stamping. I love doing this, especially with different colors. And we're going to switch up the color here. And I missed a spot here, but I'm not concerned about that because that's where we're going to really actually stamp our sentiment. And I think I need a yellow over here in this corner. Let's stamp one more yellow here. Now after I have my background done, and again, I'm not worried about that middle area, I'm going to stamp Creamsicle, Pool Party, and Lemon Drop using the same sand dollar on some white cardstock. This way I can die cut this out and we can have a little bit of dimension on our card. So let's just ink this up, stamp these. I'll stamp our Creamsicle on here. Let's put away our inks, and then I'm going to use the coordinating die, and I'm going to die cut out each one of my sand dollars here. Now after my sand dollars are die cut out, we're going to stamp our sentiment. So for this card, we're going to stamp directly on this panel here, and the panel size, let's see, is 4 inches by 2 3/4. So let's go ahead and stamp our sentiment. Our sentiment that says we shall get together soon. I think that's really cute and playful, and it's going to go perfect. I think it'll fit across my panel here. So let's take some intense black ink up our sentiment, and I'm going to stamp directly on my panel. Lovely. And then what we're going to do is take our sand dollars here, and to add a little bit of dimension, we are going to, I have foam adhesive already behind them. I'm going to add them over some of our existing ones, just for a little bit of playful dimension. Actually, let's put it over here. I think that's going to work out great. So we have a little bit of dimension with those sand dollars. Now we're going to do a little bit of layering. Okay, I created a card base with the cardstock, my papaya cardstock. I just folded it in half. This Hero Arts cardstock is great quality, and it's perfect weight for card bases. Now, if you don't like writing in a orange area, which I think it'll show up really nicely, you could always trim down a panel of cardstock and place it inside, you know, for writing if you want to. But I'm not worried about it. I think it's light enough to where I can still write a message. Now I trimmed down my tone-on-tone watermark fishing net background to 3 inches wide by 5.5 inches tall. We're going to go ahead and adhere this all the way to the right of our card. And then I have a 1/2 inch strip of my yellow cardstock. We're going to adhere this over the seam. Once I'm happy with the placement, I have a little bit overhanging, so I'll just trim that off with my scissors. And then next, I'm going to take some twine. I have some natural twine. I think it goes really good with the sea theme. I'm going to wrap it around that yellow cardstock twice. Put it right down the middle. And then I'm going to tie a bow towards the top here. Okay, I raised up my bow just a little bit on my panel and put foam adhesive behind my sand dollar panel. And this is going to go right over the seam, like so. And then we're going to go ahead and take some of our enamel dots, and we're going to add a little bit here and there. I'm just going to use my tweezers. After we have our enamel dots adhered, I do want to add a little bit of sparkle to the sand dollar centers. So the ones that we popped up, I'm going to add to the flower part, the white areas of my my sand dollar. And then that finishes card number 1. For my next card, I did create a card base. You can see here, and what we're going to do is take our embossed white panel and we're going to adhere this. I did trim it down so it measures 4 inches by 5 1/4. This is going to go in the center of our yellow card base here. Once this is adhered, I already stamped my sentiment from our stamp set, and I stamped on white cardstock with intense black ink. I miss you. All of my shells that I'm going to use are popped up with foam adhesive, so all we have to do is kind of, my plan is to arrange them in a row towards the left, just kind of overlapping and mixing and matching, and making sure that the colors are not overlapping, but they're spaced well. Such pretty shells, and I love this embossing powder. Okay, I'm going to scoot this one down, scoot this one over. We'll add this one. Now that I'm happy with my shell arrangement, I'm going to go ahead and take my little starfish and fill in some open areas. And I love the way this looks. I have a lot of dimension. I did put foam adhesive behind my sentiment. And then we are going to go ahead and finish off this card with some more of our enamel dots. Last but not least, I want to take my diamond stickles, and I'm just going to go over the starfish that don't have color that we embossed. It has a little iridescent tint to it, so it's going to give me just the right amount of sparkle. And then that will finish off card number 2. Okay, for my final card, I did trim down my tone on tone with my papaya cardstock. It's going to leave me a little bit of a border on my paradise card base. And we're going to add adhesive behind this and place this on our card base. Once this is adhered, we're going to mat some white cardstock on yellow. I thought we'd kind of create a framed corner with our leftover seashells. And I love these long shells. I think it's going to go perfect here. But I do want to add some dimension to these, so we're going to pop these up with some foam squares. And again, I want to do the corner, so I think we'll put this one along the edge, and then this one can kind of flare out. I'm not concerned about the bottom because we're going to be overlapping. And then before we add the rest of our shells, I stamped my sentiment that says, "It's your day, let's celebrate." And this is going to go on the bottom here. And I'm going to put some foam adhesive behind this as well. And we're just going to layer this in the middle of our matted frame. I love creating corners on cards. I think it's super pretty. Now the width of this is the same width of my my tone-on-tone embossed panel. We're going to center our sentiment here. And once this is centered, I can go ahead and finish off. Actually, I think that's going to look really pretty there. I'm going to tack that down right here. After this is done, I'm going to flip this around, and I do want a little bit of dimension to this. So I'm going to bring in some foam squares, and we're just going to pop this up. This is going to go in the center of our card, lining up the left and right of our sentiment. And then I'm going to add a few of my enamel dots. And then that will finish off my, oh no, let's add a little sparkle. And I topped it off with a little bit of diamond stickles over my shells for a little sparkle since it's a birthday card. But I think this would be a great masculine card too. And that finishes off my 3 projects today using the Joann.com and Hero Arts Make Yourself at Home card making kit for July 2022. I hope you get inspired with these projects, and I hope I give you some ideas using this fabulous kit. The link's down below, and again, this kit's only exclusive at Joann.com. It's not available at Hero Arts, but I'll leave that link down below if you want to check it out. It's a great value for everything that you get in the kit. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you soon. Bye-bye.